Hello everyone, welcome to the MedTech stage at the Biotech Future Forum. I'm Elena, your virtual host. Today's panel, Curing Cancer with Innovation, will explore breakthroughs in cancer treatment using cutting-edge biotechnology. Please welcome our esteemed moderator, Mr. Nenad Paunović. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Elena. Good morning, everyone. The name of this panel is Curing Cancer with Innovation, and this morning with the speech of esteemed Dr. Yankopoulos, we've heard about innovation in antibody therapies. Today we are going to speak in this panel on different kinds of innovation and different kinds of hot topic in curing cancer. Thank you all for coming, and I see we have a full room, and I'm particularly happy about that. And this panel is very specific because it has a moderator that is not from the industry. My background is in management, so each and every one of those people know immensely more than myself. But I believe it's also good because I will try to make them speak in the language that the rest of us can understand. And this is my main role here, is to find out what we are talking actually about. This panel is supported by the company Swiss Rockets with Serbian pilots. And I'm going to ask our panelists in the first round to just introduce themselves. Don't be shy. Share with the public how great and fantastic you are. If you do not, I will jump in. So it's better for you to do it yourself. But I will ask the chief pilot of Swiss Rockets to begin. Please, Vladimir.
Thank you so much for your introduction, Nenad. Hello, everybody. I'm very glad to be today here with you in Belgrade. I'm Vladimir Smiljanović. I'm a medicinal chemist by background, founder and chairman and CEO of the company Swiss Rockets, Swiss incubator and accelerator of biotech companies.
So I will continue. It's my greatest pleasure to be here with you. So I'm not coming from Serbia, but I feel like Serbian. Actually, I have Russian background, but sometimes I hear that Russians are coming from Serbia. So I'm Nadezhda Gracheva, so a scientist by background. I'm trained in radiochemistry, radiopharmacy, and I did my PhD in Switzerland in the field of nuclear medicine and specifically developing different radioisotopes for application in therapy. And I joined Swiss Rockets around 5 years ago, so I'm responsible for operations of different projects in nuclear medicine.
See, this is what I was talking about. Nadia is too modest. Please continue.
Great. Then what can I say more? So in the year 2019, me and of course my group where I was doing my PhD, we got Marie Curie Award of European Congress of Nuclear Medicine for the discovery of novel radioisotope that can outperform everything what exists currently on the market. So we brought this technology afterwards to Swiss Rockets and we continue its co-development for the needs of patients and their lives.
Now that's better. Thank you very much. Richard, please.
Yeah, my name is Richard Baum, and I'm obviously in love with Serbia because nearly exactly 10 years ago I gave a presentation here in Belgrade about a similar topic we are discussing today, 2014. I'm what you call a physician scientist. So I'm taking care of patients every day of my life since more than 44 years now, actually, and mainly with cancer patients, so patients having very malignant diseases, dying from these diseases, and the topic of the session is a cure, and that's what I'm dreaming about, and that was my motivation to bring me into medicine. I actually started in the field of cardiology, and then in the 80s, 1984, I started what is called nuclear medicine. I don't like the word nuclear, and many Germans also do not like the word nuclear, so I call it radio molecular. That means that we are working with molecules which you inject into the bloodstream and which are finding the tumor, which is called diagnostics. And the machine to do that is called PET or PET-CT nowadays. And then we can take the same molecule and label it with what Nadia is producing, a radioisotope which irradiates the cancer cell and then can cause a cure. I'm serious. I'm speaking about cure because the first applications, the first use of radioisotopes in medicine dates back already more than 80 years. So in 1941, there was a colleague, a physician, his name is Saul Hertz, who was the first to use radioactive iodine to treat thyroid diseases. And we know that with radioiodine, with this radioisotope, you can cure cancer, even if it is metastatic. So not only the primary tumor, but even if the disease is in your lung or in your lymph nodes, for example, one can just by giving 2 or 3 capsules of radioiodine, one can cure cancer. And that was a fascinating example, but of course it works only for thyroid cancer, and we were interested in the 80s with monoclonal antibodies, which were just invented at that time, to bring this principle to other cancers, like frequent cancers, colon cancer, lung cancer, breast cancer, and so on. And we were quite successful in targeting and defining the disease, but not so successful in treating. So there was not a single patient cured from this treatment. That's why later on we went to what we call peptides or small molecules and labeled them also with different radioisotope. And I was happy enough to give the first treatment in Germany in 1997 for a very rare disease, an orphan drug disease, which is called neuroendocrine tumor. You all know what is insulin, which is produced in the pancreas. And these tumors can also grow and spread in the body. And these neuroendocrine tumors, and one very good example is the inventor of the iPhone, Steve Jobs, who had this disease and unfortunately died of this disease. And later on in 2013, we went to a very frequent disease, prostate cancer, which can also be treated and very rarely cured. So we are working to improve this, and you will certainly tell a little bit about that. And Elsin, what are ways to improve this radioligand treatment, how we call it, for prostate cancer? And then over the last 5 years, we were expanding to many different indications with a molecule called FAP. And this molecule targets all different type of cancers, but there is still a long way to go. So I was 22 years chairman of a department in a quite small city in the eastern part of Germany, and officially I'm now retired, but I'm still working 14 hours a day, taking care of patients in a city called Wiesbaden near Frankfurt, and I'm still enthusiastic about this idea of making a cure with radiation and molecules, with radiomolecular medicine.
Amazing. Thank you. Elsin.
I'm Elchin Zan. I'm a nuclear medicine physician, currently lead the nuclear medicine department at the Cleveland Clinic, and I'm a neuroradiologist as well. It's an honor to be here. More than being invited, the true honor lies because it's the country of Nikola Tesla, right? We owe him so much. As a neuroradiologist, I use MRI every day. And right now, with all the electromagnetic fields, all the research going in, it's really fantastic seeing that Bio4 has a mission to cure diseases. And once we cure diseases, hopefully your mission will be even further, more critically loaded with preventing diseases. So I'm passionate in providing better, perpetually improved patient care to my patients, and that's why I'm here. And thank you so much for having us once again. But that was the history, what Richard has given us, right? The future is how we can cure together, but at the same time, how we can screen and prevent so that wellness and health is shared all over the world, irrespective of where you're coming from. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I'm Vera Artico. I'm a nuclear medicine physician, subspecialist in oncology. I have been head of the Center of Nuclear Medicine Clinical Center of Serbia for 10 years, and last 4 years, president of Nuclear Medicine Society of Serbia. Serbia has a very long tradition of nuclear medicine, almost 70 years, and very long tradition in radionuclide therapy and diagnostics, which, as Professor Baum said, began with application of radioiodine. So afterwards, there were some attempts, as I can recall memory, to use phosphor, I think, in hematological diseases, our colleagues from Medical Military Academy. And I think after 2004, we began treating of neuroendocrine tumors together with our colleagues in Vinci Institute. After that, our colleagues in Kragujevac continued that therapy and improved with the application of lutetium radiopharmaceuticals. And they also now apply those radiopharmaceuticals in treating of prostate carcinoma. In nuclear medicine now is improving very much. We obtain a lot of new equipment through IAEA projects mainly. With the emphasis on oncology, and also thanks to our Ministry of Health, we obtained a lot of new equipment, new PET-CT systems, new SPECT-CT systems, which will also improve diagnostics and not only therapy in oncology. In our institute, we are currently have under construction our GMP laboratory for labeling of gallium radiopharmaceuticals and lutetium radiopharmaceuticals, and I hope it will be finished until March.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you. We've got a little bit of history, but I'd like to ask Vladimir, as a person who kind of develops and accelerates development of different kinds of drugs, why is radiotherapy so special? Why is this class of medicine so special and so hot topic in the world right now?
We have heard actually today George Yankopoulos, the pioneer of biotechnologies, about his story about antibodies. So you have molecules that can go specifically to tumor cells. We actually also, our company Tokyo developed, as many other companies, targeted cancer treatments, small molecules that can go specifically to cancer cells, to target them and to exhaust them or to kill them directly. But the new era is beginning with radioligand therapies, where you have molecules that can go specifically to cancer cells and to irradiate them. So you have, we call them torpedo molecules. You can inject them into a vein. They navigate through a bloodstream to the surface of cancer cells, where they are recognizing surface receptor proteins. And then I like to simplify to say, then the radioisotope is acting like a molecular nuclear bomb, irradiating those cancer cells. And it has been shown, first time I saw that in the hospital by Professor Baum. I saw also metastatic patients where a significant amount of tumors was deleted or patients even cured despite metastasis, because those radioisotopes were able to break the DNA of the cancer cells, but also in many patients to activate the immune system, which then triggered the further curative treatment of those patients. So that's special. That's Novartis. We have Novartis colleagues today here with us. They did a very important breakthrough with their drug Pluvicto. Lutetium PSMA is the molecule for metastatic prostate cancer patients. This drug is prolonging the life of the patients with metastatic prostate cancer. But now new molecules are coming where people and scientists and companies are trying to improve the treatment of many different cancer indications while having more maybe promising torpedo molecules or radioligand therapies with new radioisotopes, with new targets, and combining that with different cancer treatments. That's where we see the future. That's where we see also curative treatments more and more in the near future, not in 5 years, not in 10 years. We see that also with our drug. We have the next generation Pluvicto, where we are using, instead of lutetium-177 radioisotopes that Novartis uses, we use Nadja's radioisotope. She was the first that developed that. Richard Bound, the first who tested in humans. The radioisotope is called terbium-161. So we see that we can bring more radiation into tumors, and that's where our company is focusing on.
If you allow me to add and to answer your question, what is so special? One point, you made it very nicely, Vladimir, is that we have molecules which attach specifically to cancer cells and not to normal cells. And the second, and I think probably more important, is that if you irradiate a cancer cell, you can really kill, you cut the DNA, so the cell dies. And a dead cell cannot develop resistance. All other therapies, if you look at chemotherapy, immunotherapy, and so on, they are all prone to the fact that the cells are very, very clever. So over billions of years, the cells learn to defend against everything attacking them, right? And then they can, what we call, escape. So if you treat a tumor with chemotherapy, initially, you kill some cells, but some survive. They become resistant. And the same is true for many, many immunotherapies, which are, by the way, very expensive. And that's another point one needs to discuss, is health economics. If a society can really afford these treatments, which were just presented but cost several $100,000, then it is very difficult, to have a cure for a frequent disease. But one of the specific features is that irradiation or radiation really can kill and cure. There is no resistance if you have high enough dose, of course, in the tumor.
Thank you. Nadja, you are, I believe, the expert to explain the rest of us. Those foreign or peculiar words like terbium, lutetium, gallium, iodine, and what's the difference and why do we have multiples of them and what's happening with that?
Sure. So, as was mentioned before, the word of radiopharmaceutical actually contains two main components. So it's radio and pharmaceutical. So for pharmaceutical, different companies we as well are developing biological molecules that will specifically go to the receptor in cancer cells. And it only will go to cancer cells because normal tissues will not express those receptors. Another important component is radio part, and here we talk about different radioisotopes. So there was a mentioning of iodine-131. This is the radioactive element that is being used for many, many years and successfully. So I believe this therapy will stay with us. However, the new generations of radioactive elements are coming. So one of them as was mentioned before, lutetium-177. This is so-called better minus emitter. So this element emits electrons constantly and irradiates your tumors while it's on the cancer cells. What we are doing, we're working on another radioisotope that is supposed to be more potent, and we know that it is more potent than lutetium-177. So what is the difference? It is also emitting constantly electrons over a long range, so it can irradiate different tumor masses successfully, but it has very, very short micrometer range irradiations that deposit a high amount of energy over this micrometer range. And this means that what we can do, we can not only treat tumor masses, but we can also address the main question of metastasis and micrometastasis. So that's what we are currently doing. We're developing molecules. Soon we go to phase 1 with one of our products. And we believe that this will be the future in that field, at least next level of what is currently existing.
Thank you very much. Eltin, I'd like to ask you, since you originate from Europe and now work in US and probably have a more global view of what's happening, what do you use in your practice and how do you see the development of the industry going forward?
The field is generalized as theranostics. Theranostics is a combination word, therapy and diagnostics. So I know everybody is familiar with chemotherapy, antibodies, small molecules, right? When you go to get your, when something is wrong in the human body, let's walk through this journey, right? You go to a doctor, they do a scan. It could be a CT, MR, or sometimes a PET scan. And then they take a biopsy of the tissue, and then they diagnose the patient. Then the treatment algorithm follows. What we do is theranostics. We image the patients with PET scans. We map the disease for the small molecule that we have to understand where it will go and how it will work. Because our therapies are famous for being highly impactful, but at the same time with really minimal toxicity. When you image the body, you can anticipate if there's a mass in the brain, right? We will be ready for treating the brain. Or if there is a mass in the liver, if there's a mass in the bone, is there a risk for fracture? So we are always focusing on safety first. If we do not feel treating that bone lesion with our therapies is not safe, we send the patient to radiation oncology for radiation before our treatment, or sometimes we treat them together. So the theranostics really brings the power of highly targeted therapies, delivering radiation, but at the same time highly safe therapies with minimized toxicity. This is our distinction from the others practicing theranostics so far for prostate cancer and neuroendocrine tumors. I work in the United States, so we follow FDA approvals. And these are the two indications, but right now it's a wide range. We have melanoma, we have lung cancer, we have colon cancer. There are so many different disease groups coming into the stage, but we have a big problem with drug development. Drug development takes years, clinical trial takes years. From batch to the patient for FDA approval, you're looking into probably 20+ years of work. If we're talking about AI, right, we can do better, faster, still safer. So although I practice clinically prostate and neuroendocrine tumors, on a clinical trial research end, I do practice a wide range of diseases where I think we need to re-innovate how we perceive clinical trial design. In the US, it's very difficult because regulations are very stringent, which is great still, right? Safety first. Europe is very different as well. And I'm from Turkey. It's very different in Turkey, as well as Serbia being inside or close enough to the European Union. I think with the Biopharma initiative, it really brings this totally fragmented scientific discovery and then clinical applications in the patients from multiple fragmented regions to a holistic center where the drug discoverers, chemists, biologists, pathologists, physicians are all working together. And although a similar process exists in the US, namely NIH, it's still multiple layer of bureaucracy is really becoming one of the bottlenecks in developing drugs that are translated into the patients in a timely fashion. So in that sense, I would love to practice clinical trial design that is augmented, accompanied by AI, to make sure that we're not wasting time by the human mind-driven boxes, as we heard this morning. Human mind really thrives on creativity, because when you're creative, there's no box. And I think the Biotech doesn't seem to have a box, really, but be full of super smart people.
Thank you. Richard, please walk us through the patient outcomes as an innovator in implementing those therapies and first in humans and doing all of those things in different illnesses, different stages of development of the illness. What are you seeing happening? You mentioned cures. You mentioned really true cures. So what could patients expect from those kinds of therapies?
Let me ask you, what would you expect if you have, let's say, a lung cancer or prostate cancer or whatsoever? What is your expectation?
Nothing less than forever cured.
Exactly. So you want to be free of the disease, you want to get a cure, but, and this is very important, with a good quality of life.
True.
Right? So the patients coming to me are mostly in very advanced stages of the disease, with metastases in the bone, in the liver, in the lung, in lymph nodes, and so on, and suffering from pain. This is one of the, unfortunately, most frequently observed symptoms, leading also to go to a doctor, is pain, right? You have something which is wrong in your body, you ignore it for some time, but then you can't ignore it because it causes a lot of pain, or you lose weight suddenly, right? You're eating normal and you are starting losing weight, and you don't know why the hell I'm losing weight, and you feel bad. Okay, so cancer is a disease which is very much impacting your life quality, as pain or as vomiting, losing weight, and so on and so on. And then one have to ask first, what is the diagnosis? So you have a symptom, you feel something, but you want to know why you have this symptom. And then usually, until now, you know, you start with what we call a physical examination. So the doctor palpates your liver, is auscultating your lung, and so on. Then you go to X-ray, then you go to ultrasound, you go maybe to MRI, if you have it. And if you get an appointment, right? For example, in Germany, an appointment for MRI is now up to 3 months. Wow. So if you have a breast cancer, do you want to wait 3 months to get a diagnosis? Or in United Kingdom, right? Also not anymore in Europe. You have to wait half a year or 9 months or so. So these are practical things you have to consider. And our aim with theranostics, which is part of personalized medicine. So this is what every patient, and you and me also want, is that the doctor specifically looks at your disease, not at lung cancer. Everybody is treated the same, right? But individually, regarding your age, you know, regarding your family situation, your professional situation, your working situation, and so on. So this is a whole health socio-economic system, right? It's not only a diagnosis, breast cancer, right? It's affecting your family, your work, your life, your quality of life, and so on. And this is where AI, and I hate the word AI, to be very open. I think it's the wrong word. It's not artificial, right? And it's not an own intelligence. I call it IBM, not like the good old blue company, but intelligence-based medicine, right? So we should use intelligence to make a new approach to medicine. And I think IBM, or some call it computational medicine, probably too complicated for many to remember, but it's really statistics, right? It's numbers. And there was so much talk this morning, right? But very little numbers, right? What we need are data to get into the system, right? And this is where our approach with Theranostic starts, to get data in a smart way from the patients. So in future, you use your watch, right? You're walking around, and when you are going to the doctor already knows your weight, your age, your blood pressure, your pulse, your temperature, and probably even your symptoms, because your iWatch can already tell, you know, where is your pain, how intense is your pain, and so on. Though there are very, very smart ways to get information flow from the patient to the doctor, and then to personalize this information. And as Elsen absolutely correctly mentioned, then you have to find a smart way to make a fast diagnosis, not X-ray, MRI, ultrasound, and after 3 weeks, you don't know, you know, if the lump in your breast is a breast cancer, if it is an aggressive breast cancer you will die from, or it is like in many older women, just a breast cancer you can observe or give a pill and stop hormonal production and get the same outcome. So this is, I think, what we really need to reach with intelligence-based medicine or AI, you know, to make a personal approach to your treatment and to get the information flow. And on the other way, if you are treating diseases, you have to get the data to improve the treatment. So nowadays, there are thousands of treatments done every day. Nobody is looking at the follow-up data. Nobody is, you know, analyzing this data in clinical trials. Not only for new drugs, for routine treatments. We just need to analyze and get data. This is AI, right? It's really, you know, a new way of thinking and getting data in for the improvement of the treatment and for this personalized approach, which is very easy to remember. It is the right treatment, the correct treatment for the right patient, for you or for you, okay, at the right time, so when to start the treatment, and at the right dose or medicine, right? Using terbium, for example, at the European Congress, where I'm just coming from. I was there yesterday in Hamburg with 8,000 people now visiting Nuclear Medicine Congress in Europe. Some years ago, it were 2,000 or 3,000, right? Annoying and saying, oh, nuclear medicine is dying. Now everybody is very excited. Theranostic is blooming because of this new approach and the fact that patients really have benefit from these treatments. It's not only talking, right? You get improvement of pain, you get better quality of life, and this is not just I'm saying that, that is shown by clinical prospective randomized trials, and this is where industry had a great impact, you know, on bringing these new therapies in.
Thank you. We are all probably eager to hear what's the situation in Serbia and how important is international cooperation with all those smart people and many more for Serbian healthcare system, for Serbian patients, and for Serbian practice of radio.
Thank you for the question. The situation in Serbia is follows. We have a lot of radiotherapy units. It means units for treating of carcinomas in Oncology Institute of Vojvodina, then in Zrenjanin, I think, Institute of Oncology and Radiology in Belgrade. It is under construction in our department, University Clinical Center. We have a University Clinical Center in Kragujevac, University Clinical Center in Niš, and Chigota Zlatibor. It is too much. Even in one hospital in Chuprija, we also have therapy unit. Most of that units have been dealing for a lot of decades with thyroid carcinoma as we began. But last 20 years, we have been doing therapy of neuroendocrine tumors and prostate carcinomas as well. What can be a potential problem for us, and is a problem, that we cannot provide radiopharmaceuticals as new and innovative as we would like. We have very strict regulations here, so we must provide all radiopharmaceuticals acknowledged by our Agency for Drugs and Medical Devices, which is okay. But radiopharmaceuticals, as Professor Baum said, are developing very fast. So there is no time to wait for radiopharmaceutical to be registered, because when it is registered and we use it, it has already been out of use in most of the European countries. So we need faster application of radiopharmaceuticals in our daily practice, and with Minister of Health we are doing that, trying to change legislation, I think. And also the problem could be the cost of the therapy, but still it is the second thing.
Thank you very much. Vladimir, before opening up to the questions from the audience, could you please walk us through a business of developing and running this drug development as a business? You do have a company that's particularly devoted to radiopharmaceuticals or radioligand therapies. And how does it look from the global perspective? And if you're an entrepreneur wanting to develop something like this, how does it look like?
Thank you for that question. So the pioneering work in regard of radioligand therapies has been done actually in two centers, one in Basel, in Switzerland, and in Bad Berka, the clinical part, Professor Baum. But then biotech companies and entrepreneurs behind in Switzerland and in US, they did an important clinical development part and development part, and those companies were sold to big pharma companies, to Novartis especially, and then later to other companies. And Novartis was the first big pharma company making a true innovation on the market, bringing those molecules to the market to cancer patients, like products Pluvicto for metastatic prostate cancer, Lutathera for pancreatic neuroendocrine tumors, and now other big pharma companies and biotech companies, they are developing next generation radiopharmaceuticals also for prostate cancer, neuroendocrine tumors in general, but also for other cancers. Our company, Torpedo Pharmaceuticals, the daughter company of Swiss Rockets, is actually utilizing, as I said before, the new radioisotope, and that's how we are trying to differentiate us. Also in prostate cancer, we go into those patients where Pluvicto doesn't work anymore. This drug of Novartis is prolonging the patient's life for several months, but after patients still die, the majority. What we are doing on one side is trying to prolong the life of those patients who failed on Pluvicto by using another radioisotope, Terbium-161, or we go into early stage patients. And going into early stage patients, that's where I believe with that radioisotope we can cure patients. And that's something where I'm strongly a believer. And according to the data that we have so far, and what we are doing as well in regard of business is we are probably the first working on the specific radio-sensitizing molecules. So what we want is first to exhaust the cancer cells, and when we put them actually into exhaustion state, then we want to send the torpedo molecules to actually kill billions of cancer cells more efficiently than using radioligand monotherapies. So as an entrepreneur, we are trying always how to differentiate, how to overcome the challenges and problems that first generation radioligand therapies have, and that's what entrepreneurs can do. Swiss rockets, the name is rocket, so we are trying always to do that with a rocket tempo. And then when we show that this works, then we partner usually with big pharma companies. Novartis is our neighbor in Switzerland. First we try to compete, and when they see that we are very competitive, then usually this ends in a fruitful collaboration.
Thank you very much. I have a lot more questions, but it's turning red on the screen, so I'd like to open up for the questions from the audience. We have a couple of minutes. Just please, quick questions and quick answers so we can accommodate as many as possible. I see the hand over there was the first one, I believe, but not really sure do we have the mic, or shall we share the mic? Use this one for the audience. And
Hello, thank you for this wonderful talk. My name is Boban Stanovic, and I'm from Great Ormond Street Hospital for Children, UK, London, cell and gene therapy group. And before that, I led clinical trial at King's College, London, all in cancer, mostly leukemia. Before that, I did 3 postdocs in Japan, in Kyoto. So I have I would say, good experience in cancer. And I want to defend here our delivery system. We use lenti and retro to deliver. You never mentioned here. I would like to know your experience or something, or where is the future? Small molecules or lenti, retro, as we can see from Professor Koppola's antibody. But we have quite success with lenti and retro. So
who's the question for?
Any.
Okay, yeah. Who'd like to take this?
Can you please elaborate on lenti-retro? You mean the viral?
Yeah, lentivirus to deliver gene to the cancer. Yeah.
CAR-T therapy, right?
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. Also CAR-T therapy. Novartis is the pioneer there. We have spectacular data in CAR-T therapy. What does it mean? You take from a cancer patient blood, you take the immune cell, you go to the laboratory, and with the lentivirus, you actually equip your own immune cell how to molecularly recognize better the cancer cell. You replicate that modified immune cell and you bring it back to the patient. And we saw there revolutionary results, revolutionary data. Novartis is the pioneering big pharma company behind. And what we are also trying to do is to combine radioligand therapies, antibodies, small molecules with immune therapies, like CAR-T therapies or checkpoint inhibitor antibodies. So definitely those therapies can do big success. But CAR-T therapy, for example, there are no very good examples where this therapy can cure patients in solid tumors. In leukemia and liquid tumors, yes. But in solid tumors, we don't have success like in liquid tumors. So research groups all over the world are improving the research, trying also to improve CAR-T therapies for solid tumors. And me personally, as a big doctor, Richard Baum, Vera as well, for me personally, the combination of those particular technologies and therapies can help us also to cure patients, and that's the biggest hope that I see so far.
And for the one comment, CAR-T cells are probably going to be improved massively, but scalability is a big issue. You need to extract, expand, give it back to the patient. But our therapies are done outpatient. A prostate cancer therapy drug takes only 15 minutes to infuse, once we know the patient has the receptor expression. And so on. I think scalability and access will be very important. Right now, as we heard, that's great. There are 7 centers in Serbia who can deliver radiopharmaceutical therapies. But how many CAR T cell centers? 0. So, and
we use patient cell we modify them, so it is not CAR T. It's a little bit different method.
I encourage you to continue this conversation after the panel and just have one more question for the, and then the other questions will unfortunately need to be addressed after the panel, but just one more quick question, Jens.
Thank you very much. Inspirational talk. I have a question about combination of immune therapy and radiation therapy. If you tag your radioisotope with the molecule, for example, protein, and you design that protein to interact with the cancer cell, how a radioisotope affects structure and dynamics of that protein, of that molecule. So my question is, for example, you use Dr. David Baker's Rosetta Fold-based tools to design ideal protein that will interact with your with a protein from your target cell, and then you attach a radioisotope to that protein. How that radioisotope affects that? What if simply that protein cannot interact with your desired target?
Maybe Nadia can answer that best, but it's very well studied, right?
Yes. So basically, before we give the therapy, you always ensure that your molecule will go specifically to cancer cells and that there will be an interaction between your radiopharmaceuticals. So that's what Richard would mention before, theranostics. So we do first specifically diagnostics. You take the same biological molecule and you attach very short-lived radioisotope that you can use to do PET-CT scans. So you can visualize and you can predict where your therapy goes. After that, you use therapeutic radionuclides and then basically also visualize where it goes.
I understand that. The question is, you have a natural biological molecule, and but that molecule didn't evolve with, in the presence of radio.
Yeah, but that's very well, excuse me, that's very well studied since 40 years, right? We know about radiolysis, about radionuclide purity and so on, so labeling efficiency. And there have been, meanwhile, hundreds, thousands, if not millions of patients treated with this radiopharmaceutical. So we're very well known from praxis. It is a problem, specifically for alpha emitters, for example, for radioisotopes with a very big power, destructing a protein or so. But that's a well-known problem, and I think it's for practical purposes solved.
Exactly, and sorry, just to add here, so basically before you give a radiopharmaceutical, you ensure that it's stable, you ensure that what you inject is actually only your radio-labeled compound. So with years we learned how to make the right formulation, and it may differ for different isotopes, but generally speaking, we learned how to do that. Yeah.
And as it should be for such a hot topic, the discussion will continue. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MedTech stage at the Biotech Future Forum. As you know, I'm Elena, your virtual host. Today's panel, Transforming Healthcare, Advancing Medicine for Tomorrow, will explore how biotechnology is revolutionizing healthcare. Please welcome our esteemed moderator, Dr. Branka Rakic. Now, let's dive in.
I didn't expect that. Thanks for introduction. So, thank you everybody for coming and welcome to today's panel. We will discuss about the transformative power of AI in healthcare. I mean, we are all witnessing how technology and AI is transforming our life from, I don't know, choosing the right book or choosing the right movie. And there are some things that we are not witnessing as users, as patients, and that's a transformation of healthcare. AI is really reshaping the healthcare, whether it's diagnosis, treatment, or patient care. So from some like smaller predictive algorithms to de-risk the population, to enhance the drug discovery, I mean, the potential is really a vast potential. And we have three esteemed speakers that all work in this field, but from different angles, and they will tell us about their journey and their experience. And while we were planning the panel, I was thinking where to start, and then I thought about our work. And whenever we start, where's data. And what everybody is searching for, right data in healthcare and digitalizing the healthcare. And should anyone know about a fully digital healthcare system, that's Denmark. And we have a right person to tell us more about this. So we have Henrik Gibson. So he's a CEO at the Danish virtual care company, OTH.io. He has a computer science background. In 2002, Henrik was a lead architect behind the design and the vision of a national health portal, which was launched in 2003 and covers all citizens and healthcare professionals in Denmark. In 2011, his company also developed and delivered the Danish National Service Platform for Healthcare IT, which made a dream for every scientist that work on this, integrate and standardize data exchange in healthcare on a scale in Denmark. With a fully diagnosed healthcare system, then he moved on to bringing healthcare to the citizens of Denmark so as to help hospitals become more effective. So since 2000, so in the company OTH.io platform has been fully in production across Denmark since 2013. With 9 years of experience in this virtual healthcare, I think you're right authority to help us with this. So please, Henrik.
Thank you. So this is my brain. I used to be a product. Now I'm a consultant, and this is my consulting company, and this is my brain. This is how I think. I've been doing for 20 years, and it's very important for me. I'm trying to click this one. Okay, here we go. Exactly. So it's important for me that you know that I know what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of consultants waving their arms saying blah, 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 blah. I've actually been there. I have scars on my back. So grab my CV and look for yourself. So we all know we have a problem. Everybody here are here because we have a problem. And the WHO have done a very good job of visualizing. We have too few doctors, we have too few nurses, and we have too many people getting diseases. And you heard the story 1,000 times before. So we are strongly motivated to be here and do something about it. So before I start, let me do a magic trick. Let me tell you about stuff in Serbia that you know that I could not possibly know, but know anyway. So we have national challenges in healthcare IT in Serbia. Everybody knows this to some extent. We have big ambitions. Politicians have big arm movements and lots of money and say, oh, we're going to do blah, 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 and then, yeah, right, they're going to. But they're understaffed. The government agency, they don't have the right people because they can't pay for it. They also do not have experience building infrastructure because they haven't done it before, so how could they? They also have a dysfunctional governance because they don't talk together. They all think they should be in charge. So this boss wants to do this and this boss, and they don't talk. They just different directions, and it's like, come on. And then you have someone actually manages to build a system that works. And this, yay, but it's only one. And then they're very proud of it, but it doesn't solve a problem. It's just like one place that works. This could be university hospital or a register for medications, whatever. But it's not enough, is it? Then we have pilotitis. You know the word pilotitis? Yeah? I can hear people laughing. They know it. Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of that. And then we have a time pressure. It has to be finished by tomorrow, right? No time. And because of the politicians, it has to be finished in my election period. So within the next 2 years, otherwise people don't remember that I did it. So here is 2 million euros. Finish the project in 6 months, and you have to do a project that takes 10 years. Can you do that? No, I can only fail. Okay, when can you begin, right? Oh, Jesus Christ. And then we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the means of communication and transportation. We cannot do it because we don't have it. But anyway, the politicians say, we want to build this, we want to build an airport. We don't have any planes yet, but who cares, right? Then, well, we don't have the standards either. We know they exist, but we have not implemented them because our medical record is like 15 years old and they doesn't implement the fire records or the HL7 or anything else. Maybe it doesn't even communicate, It's problematic. And then we have, the most conservative system in the world, the healthcare system. And any doctors present? Okay. I hope you have a sense of humor because I'm kind of going to joke on you. So what is the difference between a supervising doctor and God? What is the answer? God knows he's not a doctor. So we want it to be fast and cheap and good, right? And we probably succeed with fast, but that is the problem. So we need to do something. And what we have is this. We have a lot of silos, unintegrated, separate platforms, and this is even optimistic, but you don't have 8 systems that work. You have maybe 1, maybe 2, 2.5. But this is ideally you have a lot of silos. And there's no integrations, there's no coordinations, there's no future in this. It doesn't work. You need to do something, and it's not good enough to go and say, we want to have a national patient medical record, because that doesn't manifest by itself. It takes a lot of infrastructure, a lot of basis, a lot of platform to do that. So you need to build an open source infrastructure, because if you don't, you're going to pay $1 billion to Oracle or some other idiot company that doesn't really do anything except take your money. It doesn't provide value. You need to build an open source infrastructure. We did that in Denmark in 2011. It takes 5 to 10 years to make it complete, but it's a good idea. And you need to build on a national level. You need to have open ecosystem that everybody can access, well documented, well qualified, and you need to start with the basis. That's the way you begin. You need to standardize it. You need to build data repositories. You need to look into the data structure from the EU and the AI Act to have good AI implementations and common basic services. This is important, but why? It's important because there's a lot of stuff we only want to build one time. Because if you build silos, that every time you build a system, you need to have user management, security, logging, backup, all kinds of stuff that should only be built one time so everybody can use it. So the whole idea about a platform is you build it one time and then everybody can use it, so the application you put on top for the patient record, for the consent management becomes much easier, because all of these non-functional demands are difficult, it takes time. So if you do it only once, then you have leapfrogged the entire progression of healthcare in Serbia far forward by a quantum leap as a scoop. So this is basically what we want to do. We want to have a health cloud. We want to have a health cloud where all this basic stuff is managed one time and for all, based on open source standards, based on open source architecture and components that everybody knows and uses, and put together in a way that you can operate it and make it available for entrepreneurs, startup companies, IT companies, so they build on this publicly owned open source. So it's easy to add new components. And then you can start saying, okay, what do we want? We want medical record, identity service, patient registry, document archive, document sharing, SNOMED register, medication list, lab result, all that stuff we need. But the first thing we need is identification, unique identification, only one place. And we need to build it in a way that no vendor owns the databases. It has to be publicly owned. So there was a recipe for this. And we started doing this in Denmark in 2011. It's not rocket science, but it takes a lot of time. So anyone want to guess how long time it takes for establishing a platform until it's completely utilized by the healthcare sector? Any guesses? Anyone? 5 years? Good guess. Anyone? 10? 11? Oh, we built it in 2011, and it was completely utilized by 2019, more or less. And every single IT system in Denmark, municipality, regional, private hospital, private doctors, government agencies, government database, is integrated into that standardized infrastructure and is owned by the government. And that's the key. So we need to find out who in the government has the intelligence, the energy, and the money to do this, but that's your job. I'm just going to say that it takes time and experience, but it can be done. So get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrik. Very exciting, and we have a lot to talk, which we'll do later. So each of the speakers will first present, and then we will have a panel discussion. So now we kind of figured out the data. I know that it's a lot of work for us. And then, what to do with data? We can build new tools, and also you can implement new tools. And that's why we have today with us George Francis. He's a channel manager of Europe, Middle East, and Africa for a company called Gleamer. Don't let the title deceive you. He's engineer, biomedical engineering, bachelor and master degree in medical imaging. And he will talk more about the Gleamer. I just wanted to say that the Gleamer is this, for how I see Gleamer, is this young, hype company, very innovative, and it's at the forefront of AI in radiology. He will probably talk more, but it's from tumor detection to bone fraction. So please, Jojo.
Thank you for the introduction. First, I don't have 30 years of experience because I'm not even 30 years old yet. But I can share with you today our success story at Gleamer, building AI solutions and being adopted worldwide today. So a quick introduction about Gleamer. We're a French company headquartered in beautiful Paris. We've been founded in 2017, and ever since we've been developing AI solutions based on funding that we've been getting and also FDA clearance, CE clearance. Today, we're one of the leaders in AI and radiology with more than 20 publications, clinical studies in worldwide journals. We've been adopted in the biggest luminary sites across the globe, like Charité Berlin, AP-HP Paris, UCLA in the US. And we work closely with the biggest luminary radiologists across the globe to help us develop our solutions. All of this today allowed us to have 2,000 hospitals that are using our solution in clinical routine, and we process 30 million patient exams a year. What we built at Gleamer is the Gleamer Copilot. We started our journey with a main focus on X-rays. I don't know if we have any radiologists here or not, but if you ask any radiologist, the most tedious exam to read today is X-ray because they want to save time and go faster on them. So we built the whole package, focusing on trauma, chest, measurements, bone age, and our idea and vision is to develop more AI solutions to cover more of the radiologist activity. So we're developing mammo and tomo and oncology CT. Regarding integration, it's really easy to use. It's really integrated into the existing workflow of the radiologist. So we automatically process the exams and send back the results for them to see it in their existing workflow. If we take the first solution that we developed, bone view trauma, that can detect fractures, effusions, dislocations, bone lesions, all the body part, the way it will work is as soon as they get the native images, looking into their PACS viewer, they will get the Gleamer summary table and bounding boxes showing where the fracture is located. So it's quite easy, as you can see, but it really has a huge impact on their daily activity. What we're also building, because we know AI is not only used for diagnostic purposes, but also for gain of time, we're building our own automated reporting tool. With this automated reporting tool, you'll be able to get the report generated automatically, and the radiologist has to sign it off only. One study we did in France, which is really exciting to show you, over 3 months, we picked up all trauma plain film exams. Radiologists were reading those exams, of 5,000 exams, they found 668 fractures. We took all those exams and processed them with our AI, and what we found that there were actually 886 fractures. So the radiologist missed 218 in clinical routine that the AI picked up. On the other hand, we missed 17 that they found. So that's why we have a sensitivity of 97.8% and negative predictive value of 99.5%. We also looked into our specificity that was 88%. This study clearly shows that there's no perfect AI solution, as well as there's no perfect clinician or radiologist. However, mixing them together is when we get the best result. We also moved forward to develop more AI solutions like the automated MSK measurements. So today, radiologists have to do the measurements themselves, which take around 15 minutes. With the AI, they can automatically get them in 1 minute. And for this solution, we are praised worldwide because they don't want to do those exams anymore. That's also an example of the scoliosis. And we can cover up to 50 MSK measurements today, so covering different body parts. Third is the bone age as well, an exam that is done in clinical routine that takes around 15 minutes that could be easily automated thanks to the AI. With the frontal hand acquisition, we can generate the results. Same goes for chest. We can generate the result based on the frontal chest x-rays, identifying pneumothorax, lesions, mediastinal masses, nodules, and showing them. What we see as benefits from the Gleamer Copilot is definitely a reduction of waiting time. And what we notice in Europe, especially, a huge gain of time in emergency department. With the very high NPV, some hospitals today in France, for example, are not doing a second reading of the x-rays. They're relying on the AI to discharge the negative patients. It's also helping to reduction of any medical complication that we see a lot in the US, not mostly in Europe. I don't know if in Serbia you people like to sue each other or not, but in the US it's quite common. Using the AI as a safety net, you can have a second objective point of view as well. Finally is the faster turnaround time. For the last point, it's really important to note, when we first implement our AI, users sometimes hate it because they're losing time, because they always want to challenge the AI. What did it do wrong? Where did it miss? However, once they build the trust in it, that's when they go faster on those exams. And that's Gleamer.
Thank you. And now for the end, a lady with a vast experience. And I'm very lucky to have her here on this panel for two reasons. First, she saved the panel. We had a last-minute cancellation. And second thing is that on the first Biotech Future Forum, she was a moderator, and we didn't have a chance to hear her story. So now we do. And I have to read because you have a lot of experience. She's a distinguished biomedical data scientist and technology executive. She has a PhD in computer science, and she specialized in digital health, AI informatics. Currently, Nevenka Dimitrova, I never said the name. Currently, she's designing a new strategy for spatial biology at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Working on longevity and cancer treatments, developing new ones using AI. As a VP on biomedical data at GlaxoSmithKline, she spearheaded transformative digital initiative in pharma R&D, including pioneering cloud and machine learning application. Formerly, she was a CTO of oncology informatics and genomics at Philips, and led the production from concept to market, significantly enhancing a clinical outcome. And she's still a scientist with over 140 publications and 80 patents, and we are very lucky to have her deeply involved in education worldwide. And she has some board roles in Macedonia, at AI Institute of Serbia, in India, and really, as she says, focusing and empowering underdeserved youth in tech. So thank you, Nevenka, please.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm really glad and very proud of what we're doing here. And to me, it's very inspiring to see this vision for the biotech campus in Serbia. And in talking to the minister, and today she outlined her vision, it's really an amazing incubator that's going to move the country forward. So I'm very honored again. So let me talk a little bit about my vision and perspective from RX and DX, so both diagnostics and therapies, and also bedside. I've been working for Philips, for GlaxoSmithKline, and my love for improving patient outcomes was always there. But when my father was diagnosed with glioblastoma, and from a perfectly healthy person, He went from a 5-centimeter tumor to an entire hemisphere in just 3 months. That was a big pullback for me, and I was very happy to publish technical papers, and then I realized that no amount of technology can be interesting until it's really useful and practiced in the clinic. So with that, I want to give you kind of a picture of what has impressed me in the last few months. Top left, it's AI. We think of it as the new prescription because it can be used not only in discovery, but also in the delivery of care. Also, top right is David Baker. He shares the Nobel Prize for Chemistry this year. And he gave a keynote speech at Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference in Seattle. I talked to him afterwards for like an hour, and along with a large group of graduate students, all excited about how he sees the future of protein design, because he is looking not only at healthcare and designing proteins that are now being tested for pancreatic cancer, which, as you probably know, it's like 5-year survival is like 5%, melanoma and many others, but also proteins that can work for artificial photosynthesis, proteins that will degrade plastics. So all of this work in biotech, here we are focusing on medicine, but has vast impact. And the Rosetta Fold, I've read somewhere, that he used the diffusion model for protein design, has burned something like 1.5 million GPU hours. So it is quite a feat. And also, this morning, Dr. George Yankopoulos, who is a true visionary in turning the drug discovery upside down with the Velocimmune mouse, but many other discoveries and finding these bottlenecks. And AI, at least to me from the beginning, has been, first of all, a tool for optimization. There is a new definition of AI, which is a co-pilot. It's become a co-pilot, not merely a tool. And according to Yuval Noah Harari, it's actually playing a key role in how humans now and in the future will make decisions. And also Recursion Pharmaceuticals, which is a very innovative drug discovery company that has been using deep learning, computer vision in looking through millions and millions of images and finding drug targets. I think of this whole space as traversing the scales. So from macro scale, electronic healthcare records, to micro, like digital pathology, whole slide imaging, but also nanoscale, spatial biology, not only sequencing, but in today's world, there is spatial biology, there is spatial proteomics, spatial lipidomics, which brings very large resolution, because in one experiment, for example, on a cell dive, you can layer 50 antibodies, and you can see the proximity and protein-protein interactions in action, in space, in situ, which was never been seen before. These images are a few gigabytes each. They're not 2 megabytes like on your iPhone, but this is where AI can help. I want to talk, because Branka asked me, give some examples from your own experience. So when I was at Philips, we designed a new software as a service for precision medicine that had a molecular tumor board, as well as genomics reporting and clinical pathways, this was not with AI, this was with the minds of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And even back then, this is 6 years ago, we used recurrent neural networks for extracting information from clinical trials in order to match those with comprehensive patient portraits. GSK.ai is another one that I'm very excited about. I was part of this group a few years ago, but they have went on and for the last 6 years have implemented many AI algorithms. And 2 examples here. One is they used autoencoders in order to find subgroups of heterogeneity response in a phase 2b clinical trial. And this was for chronic hepatitis B subtypes. And the type of therapy was antisense oligonucleotide therapy, which to me, it's truly amazing because you can see the trajectories of response for each patient. Another one is an association of shingles vaccine and reduced risk of dementia. And for this, they use data from 115 million patients, the identified data. So this is where the power of such huge data sets and data that, for example, Henrik has introduced in the world, having good annotated data over many, many patients can bring such positive outcomes. So you basically have 20% reduced risk over 5 years with this shingles vaccine. I also want to mention a few examples. I'm not going to go in detail, but there is a company, Exscientia, if you pronounce it in European English, or Exscientia if you pronounce it in American English. But it's really an AI-driven company that has applied AI at every single stage of drug discovery, meaning from target discovery, also very high precision chemistry for hit and lead optimization, as well as for introducing into clinical trials. And they have this DSP 1181, which was developed for treating obsessive compulsive disorder. So this company, by the way, is now acquired by Recursion Pharmaceuticals for $688 million. So AI is worth something after all. And then Benevolent AI, which is another great example. So they first achieved FDA approval in 2022, but they didn't start from scratch. They did drug repurposing. They used vast amount of chemical libraries, of vast amount of data, and very sophisticated algorithms in order to find and to get authorization to use Lilly's Olumiant COVID-19 drug. And God forbid another pandemic, this can be a way to very quickly see how we can repurpose drugs. Another one is in silico medicine, and Branka reminded me that actually their CEO was 2 years ago.
No, last year
on the panel here. So he has been here. But they've started, and they have this kinase inhibitor, which is for the treatment of idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And now I think they're in phase 2 trial. But all of the processes from target discovery, which is the first one, the lead optimization, all of the experiments that they did to show excellent activity in cell-based assays, enzymatic assays, etc., and then further in vitro and in vivo. In the preclinical world, many drugs or drug targets fail. So if you have a very powerful method to design these experiments and conduct them, then also that can introduce quite a bit of speed up, as well as the, furthermore, the preclinical results for this drug, INS 1855, exhibits quite a bit of considerable antibiotic and anti-inflammatory efficacy. Now, I only have a couple of slides, but I think of AI, if it can solve AlphaGo and chess, why don't we play chess with cancer? And why can't we have models that would be able to take us from a healthy state to a pre-malignant to cancer, but also models that can take us back and help with drug discovery. And also therapy resensitization, because as you know, people become insensitive to chemo, also radiation, and we need ways to reverse that. So for this, all of these very important nanobiology type of questions can be answered, like key communication pathways, how to find cell subpopulations, how to analyze the spatial dynamics between all of these molecules. This is very important. And I just wanted to bring up this particular picture because when they asked Sam Altman how much was spent on GPT-4, I believe he said $100 million. So while it used to be a few tens of thousands of dollars over the last 9 years, this kind of hunger for processing power and training these large AI models, it has become very big, which is why I think there is still room for what is called now tiny ML, which is you're not using and burning GPUs, but you're designing more clever algorithms. And I do want to talk about data. So maybe in one of the answers, yes, and my key takeaway points, which for me, the ultimate goal really is to support diagnostic and treatment clinical decisions, to have more systems thinking, meaning of all the different scales in medicine and biology, to traverse these spaces with AI models, and also to convert this tremendous investment that has been done so far. Just one example, so Meta, the Facebook company, spends something like $20 billion per year on AI. And most of that they put in public domain. So you can go on Hugging Face and download it. So if you don't have money to train a model, you can fine-tune a model. And I believe that that can be of tremendous help for AI in healthcare.
Thank you, Nevenka. Very good point. Thank you. Please sit. I feel bad. I was sitting all the time. Okay, so let's figure out where to start. And Henrik, you said it's our job. And then what do you think, what is the prerequisite system that is needed to establish the National Electronic Health Record?
Well, you need to establish this cloud solution that is open source, public domain. But the first functional system you have to put it in is digital identity. Mm-hmm. You need to know who are the people. Can you identify everybody uniquely with a digital ID? Because if you cannot, there's no way you can guarantee safe access to data in a national platform unless you have a digital identity. So this is kind of like key. That's where you start.
Okay, thank you. And then for you, Giorgio, again, what would be a prerequisite, or what would you give us as an advice for healthcare institutions, how to prepare, how to start with the AI journey? Like, what do they need to have? Or
So for the AI adoption, as the first step is definitely to get the right education on the application that you're using, to understand its benefit, advantages, but also limitation. Setting the expectation right is key for a successful adoption.
I didn't expect that. I thought you would say, like, I don't know, digitalize the health system or...
Not at all, because there's so many AI applications out there, and there's so many solutions. Also, you were saying, getting the correct one for your correct workflow is key for successful adoption. Otherwise, you will have solutions jumping from one to another with a lot of failures.
Okay, great, thanks. And Nevenka, you missed the last slide, so I want to ask you now already that. So, as I said, for the start, for the development of AI, data is most important, and you said there's a lot of data out there. So what do you think, what are the key data sources?
So there are many data sources that could be very useful that are in public domain, like GTEx, DepMap. The sequence archive is also available, but you need to submit a proposal and then outline what you will do. You can get access to the data with the approval first from your own institution, because you need to understand the ramifications of accessing this data, and then at the end you have to delete the data. So that's for biology data, and the protein data bank, which has been used by AlphaFold and RosettaFold, that's freely available because it's de-identified. There is not human identifiable data there. But anything that comes from real-world data, which has the aspect of privacy, I think there are great initiatives like Genomic Alliance for Health, so GA for GH. There is also ISO MPEG genomics standard, which has established a very nice way of hierarchically organizing the data, but also can bring 5 to 10x compression of the data. And in AI, we're always worried about data and how much it costs to store and process the data. So that is very important. And finally, it was mentioned this morning by the CEO of GA for GH, Peter Goodhand, HL7 FIRE genomics standard, which also tries to utilize the genomic data, but using the healthcare information systems. And I think bringing these standards and making them collaborate with each other and have cross-standardization activities will increase the utilization of the data, and maybe we will burn less GPUs in the end.
Thank you, thank you. And now, I mean, the start seems so easy, just like a digital ID, but it sounded a lot more work when you talked about it, especially between, you said, like miscommunication, let's say it like that, between politicians and healthcare practitioners. So how do we avoid that? How do we foster this communication? And also, importantly, how do we avoid vendors lock-in?
I think that's a lot of question in one. But I think the first one is easy. Well, it's in theory it's easy. So what you do is you put on an agency, and you put in this agency, this is the agency for implementing digital technology in the healthcare sector. And in this agency, you put in the board of directors all the bosses from all the agencies that has a say in this. And you put them on the board and say, you are now co-responsibility for this healthcare digitalization. If you don't participate in the board and don't take responsibility, then you don't get any money and you're out, right? So you hostage them. You put them in the board and say, you are hostage now, and you have to cooperate with the other bosses to bring technology here. And then the agency will be a cross-agency, a cross-government agency that nobody can be against because everybody's on board. So you remove the struggles. This is a political move, and it works. So that's one part. The second part is when you then do the project, then you need to have someone to tell the politicians, shut the fuck up and do something that is not unrealistic. So if you want to national patient register, let's scale it down and start asking all the hospitals, what do you actually have? What data can you exchange? And then you will find out there is a very, very small data set that is actually available throughout the hospitals that you can actually implement. And then you can implement that, and then you're going to tell the politicians to shut up while you do it, because they will be, oh, it's not ambitious enough, it has to be more. They will not be happy with this, but this will work. And in doing so, when you build this health cloud, you have to be reliant on databases that are open source, that are great open source databases. And you can put a lot of different databases in one platform, but you have to own the API on the cloud. You need to be, this has to be government controlled, so you can control the data that comes in and out. And then you can allow everybody to install whatever kind of databases you want in health cloud. But if you control the API, the access, then you have the control, and then you can kick everybody out. And vendor login is easy. You said standard contract is like this. Every 3 years, you have to switch the vendor. And the part of the qualification of winning the tender is that you can demonstrate that you can hand it over to someone else. If you cannot do that, you're out. Well, it's simple.
Yeah, it also sounds so simple when you talk about it. But it took 10 years in the end, so it can't be that simple. But it's a lot of things, and it's great advice. I mean, I understand collaboration is the key, but I'm sure you had a lot of challenges, and yeah. So Georgia, like I'm sure you have the same when you're trying to implement the AI solution. And what is like the biggest resistance that you encountered at implementing the AI? Like, was it institution or professionals or public?
So in the beginning, it was the fear of AI. We always had physician, clinician asking us, oh, they're going to replace us. Not at all. It's a co-pilot, as you were saying as well. That was the first initial thing, and I kind of want to thank Hollywood for the great movies on AI taking over the world, so they got really scared of it. Second step was IT, security measurements. How do we prove ourselves that we're not going to reuse this data? And then it took a lot of effort to prove ourselves with reference sites, security measurements, security team, answering all the questionnaires. So I think those were the two difficulties we always have when implementing AI.
Yeah, security is really important. And we will have questions on that. We will discuss more. And Evan, you're the one that had experience throughout everywhere. I mean, the industry, different than academia. And then I figured that you would probably be the best person to answer, like, how do you think is important this kind of collaboration between the institution, academia, and the industry, and how to foster those?
That's an excellent question. When I was at Philips, I would never have a project without at least 2-3 academic collaborators. And my reasoning was the following. In industry, we always want, just like Henrik said, the quickest possible way to a result, but with very little money, if possible. So there are many in these novel technologies that are many open questions that academia can address. And they have very smart PhD students, postdocs. And to me, they would always bring insights that we had smart people, but we never had enough time to look at a theorem, prove a theorem. And I think theorem proving can sometimes save you a lot of money rather than burning GPUs. So I think there is this new movement when I was at CVPR in Seattle, the Tiny ML, which now is looking at new ways to design AI architectures that you don't have to spend that much money. And I think universities are best for that. And then governments and policymakers can really help in shaping the way data is governed and data is shared. And I was really impressed with the example from Poland this morning. Ligia gave a wonderful example today, because I think when we are looking at us as patients and individuals, I would have loved to have enough data so that my father could be cured from glioblastoma. But in the last decade or so, ASCO has been saying, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, how do we collect data so we can learn from every patient? And we all know that's very slow and painful, but the most important thing is, again, establishing standards, following standards, and that's how the collaboration can happen, where the policymakers can help us in that regard. And mandate all of this data sharing so that this can work on the benefit of patients.
Yeah, that's true. And safety is always a big question. And also from the patient side, they're always afraid that somehow data will be misused, but they're signing everything online all the time. And in this context, I mean, how do you actually secure safety and sharing the data in your cloud?
I think bringing all the applications for the healthcare sector into one cloud means you only have to check security one place. And that's the idea. So, and if you put it in one cloud, then you can spend a lot of energy and money on cybersecurity, and you can run every 3 months you run a penetration test from your semi-hostile approach to check that it actually works. And if you don't do that, then you at some point you will lose data. And we have not had a data leak in Denmark for the last 20 years. So I think we can safely say that this approach works. Have to be very diligent, and you don't trust anyone, but have to do it yourself, and you have to make sure you can document that it is impenetrable. Of course, the GDPR helps a lot, but basically, using your common sense and the right tools and allowing it to be done in one single place, consolidation is key. Because if we had 20 systems like most other countries, not all of these vendors will do it diligently, and you will have data leak. Eventually, that will happen. So consolidation and centralization, and then let people do their job. And use the tools. Use AI. AI is a great tool. Yeah. And there's a great tool. In the hands of the right people, use the right tools and let them do it. That's really important.
Yeah, again, easy. Yeah. And I mean, safety is the question for the data, but as well as in application. I mean, what being cultured, everybody is afraid of mistakes of AI, and also what happens if AI gets to my data. Will it improve or learning from my data? It will be a leaking of the data. So
we always used to get those questions.
Yeah,
we're used to it because today we have to prove that we never use data of our sites, hospital, using our solution. All the data is deleted as soon as we process and send back the results. We have high standard of security measurements, GDPR, HIPAA compliant, as well ISO certifications, and also work with the cloud, Google Cloud based in Belgium, with very high level of security. So that's how we can make sure that we do not use data. We can even present reports to our sites that everything is deleted from our cloud as well.
I have a provocative question for you.
I love this.
You return the data, but what about the models that you have built using the data from those hospitals? How are you thinking about the intellectual property in that regard and sharing back?
So we do have some reference sites that have access to our solutions before anyone else. These sites, we get data from them, and we work with them on developing the solutions. But we don't use data from the other hospitals that are just working with us normally.
Thank you.
And I think this actually brought, I thought of another question for safety, because from the last year panel, it was my question to Alex from Silico was, how he passes safety, or what, safety is always a question with FDA approval of drugs, and then you apply AI to develop safe drugs. How do you know they are safe? And he was always also the easy guy. It was easy. He simply doesn't use it in preclinical and clinical trials. That was his answer. But today I've heard that and you mentioned that there are companies using in clinical trial, which is a bigger safety issue. What do you think about that?
It is about how we use AI in this sense. For example, using AI to define and to extract information from phenotypes, because a lot of mouse models are developed in this preclinical phase, and it's usually the slowest phase, and many drugs fail. So that's why some of these drugs become $1 billion in 10 years, because of the safety and efficacy, and patient recruitment takes time. So designing virtual clinical trials and simulations, I think, with the available clinical data. So you're not simulating on patients, you're simulating on virtual patients. So that when you're introducing out of 10 possible molecules, you introduce the molecule that's hopefully with the lowest profile for toxicity and highest profile for efficacy of the drug.
Yeah, thank you. I have still more questions, but I think we have 5 minutes, so we'll open the floor for questions from the audience if you have. Oh, yeah, please. Mike, I need, can I? Yeah.
Okay, I'm Andreana Disios from the Republic of Cyprus. It's a dual but short question. The first one has to do with the clinical trials per se. I mean, how can we compare the pace of development of in silico clinical trials with the traditional, which is still the benchmarking for approval? I need phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I need, to follow the pace. Are we ready to change the endpoints? Where the dialogue standing? And as you have the microphone, energy, okay, there is a lot of work, of course, but if we don't have the resources we need, and in this world we face, today, with such high risk for energy resources, to disappear, the whole system would collapse without sufficient energy. So the policy, has to go in parallel. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. I think this is more of an advice or a comment, but I'd like to respond. So in the world of clinical trials, one of the most difficult phases is recruiting for clinical trials. And if AI can help in recruitment so that you can recruit patients faster and also follow patients so that there is not too much time spent or we don't lose patients, because that prolongs the time to collecting the data. I think that's one of the areas where AI can help. But also, just like I mentioned, there is always a heterogeneity of response. So along with the trial, if you're able to run some kind of a nanoscale parallel, like taking the information from molecular data, then we can also design biomarkers that can better target these drugs to the right patients. And again, then you can layer approvals for other indications and drug repurposing right on.
I'm Dr. Pavlovich from Niš, a nephrologist from the university. I've got at least 2 questions regarding this very successful introduction of digitalization in Denmark. If you analyze the data, did you find which category of the patients benefited the most of the introduction of this system? I mean, chronic CKD patients with chronic kidney disease, heart failure patients, or pulmonary patients, or whichever group?
So having the health cloud and the healthcare platform allowed us to make a fast implementation of large-scale remote patient monitoring for chronic disease patients with COPD and heart failure. And we have clinical trials published in 2017 documenting that each heart failure patient enrolled in telehealth can save 15 euros per patient per day. But this could be done because we had the basic platform.
And what was the drop of hospitalization in your patients during that period?
Well, the savings of 15 euros per patient per day was the savings from not going to the hospital mostly, but it was the full load of the patient. That was the full cost was the savings for 15.
Yeah.
Another question, if I may.
Yeah. Short. Yeah, please, or without the mic.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know about that technical problem. As a nephrologist, I'm looking at the role of environmental factors in the etiology of renal diseases and the cancer of urothelial tract. Since you've got all those data, did you analyze the correlation, actually the geographical distribution of various diseases, looking particularly at the geographical distributions of cancers? Because I'm looking at the role of aristolochic acids in the development of aristolochic acids in nephropathy and the urothelial cancers.
Having all the data in one platform allows us to export anonymized data to companies for research, but it is not the job of the government to do this research. They will make it available for research projects. So having the data in the platform is the basis for allowing research to happen. so they can get anonymized data for the research. But the actual research is not taking place per se from the government level, but is given to initiatives.
Thank you. So we have another question there. Please.
Hello, I'm Martina Bosic. I'm a professor of pathology at University of Belgrade. Thank you for really nice lectures. I have two questions. One is for Dr. Dimitrova. So when we are doing research, we're using publicly available data sets because our own are not either available or very small. But what we are facing is that we need the curation of these public data sets. For example, TCGA, some of the cases that are there are actually not the tumor types that are supposed to be or should be reclassified. So where is the role of AI in the curation of such data?
Depends whether we are using this for developing models to generate hypotheses or to treat patients. I think when we're generating models to generate hypotheses, then you can impute the data and maybe, I know that my team had always found many mistakes of many published papers where a few patients seem to be outliers. You know, a patient head cannot be 4.5 meters. So it's like common sense. So I understand with the TCGA data, and we've had a very similar experience. But if it's for research purposes, yes. However, for developing a clinical biomarker, I think that really ultimately depends on good human curation, because we cannot go to the FDA for approval with curated data that's imputed with AI. Not now, at least.
Thank you. And the next question is for Henry Gibson. So, as a pathologist, I often have a feeling that clinicians and we pathologists and radiologists, we don't speak the same language. And there is a trend to create a synoptic reporting, which I highly support, but it's like, how did you make the consensus to have this type of synoptic reporting that is, on one hand, useful for creating anything that is good for society, but also for research, and not losing the data, because our reports can sometimes be very long.
I think the answer is not to put any view on specific data from the beginning. In the central system, in the central database, in the national platform, there is no specific use on data that goes more than anyone else. It's all data. It's just data. So the interesting part, if you have a lot of data, then you can add different viewpoints. Depending on where your interest lies, you extract data and put them in your report that is interesting for you. So each of the different groups of doctors, they have different views and different reports on the same database because they extract different systems. So the challenge is this. If we start with a minimum viable record that just has the minimal record data that is available in Serbia, this will not help you a lot. But over the time, when you expand this year by year, eventually you arrive at the point where the qualification and the resolution of the data is sufficient to provide all the specialist doctors with their particular view that will allow them to see things in the right way. And then they can start extracting data for research and for science that are specific for them. But aggregating all the databases under the same umbrella is the key to doing this, because if you don't have this aggregation, you cannot access these reports in a way. So I think standardization, aggregation, and communication and all of this is key to arriving at a point where you can support different specialities and different purposes with the same data, anonymize them, and so on and so forth. So it's a journey. It takes time.
So we're in red, but I will use my authority just for one more question for Jojo, because I see many clinicians here, and now I'm thinking about the fear of AI and using the tools. When you're implementing already in some hospital, who are the champions? Who are the ones that are pushing it and saying they're a good solution?
So it depends, but what we normally see is the users, in our case, are mostly radiologists, emergency physicians, because they're getting the most benefits out of it. Sometimes we might see some management people that are really excited about AI to move forward with this, and then they kind of force the users to go through it. And once it's implemented and we cut it off for 1 week, we get calls like, where did the AI disappear? So it really depends, but mostly I would say the people getting the benefits from the AI, which are, in our case, the radiologists and ED physicians.
Oh, nice to hear that. I'm sorry, we're in red. So I want to thank to our speakers. Thank you all very much. It was really interesting hearing you all, and thank you all for coming here. Thank you.